Welcome to Tyrompers No Limit Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Tyrompers No Limit Podcast. This episode number 70, guys. You guys know we are always fired up. Today, we got a fatherhood legend coming on the podcast. This is my man, Jonathan, here. He is a father of 5 kids under 12. He is ever evolving into a better dad, encouraging and leading other men to do the same. He's coming to us from Jersey today, and we're really pumped to have him on. Welcome to the podcast, Jonathan, a.k.a. The Evolved Dad. Welcome on, brother. How you doing today?
Awesome. Thank you so much for having on. I just wanted to kick off with how I came across your account. I actually saw your pinned tweet, and it was so inspiring to me. Anyone that has not watched that or has not watched that in depth, I think needs to see what a true dad is about. So I'm here to come along on the journey with you, and you're an inspiration to all of us.
Brother, that one hits. I don't want to cry on the podcast. That one hits me in the feels, man. I really appreciate that. And yeah, to reference that pinned tweet for a second, and then we'll hop into Jonathan. Yeah, I'd challenge anybody to watch that on Twitter. It's had 160 some thousand views now, where my child was in the hospital, not doing well, and just tried to go make somebody else's day. And I think that's what being better is all about, right? Is making other people's day too. So, dude, I appreciate that, man. And it's cool to be able to inspire a guy like you that also inspires me, man. So maybe share with the people, anybody who doesn't follow you or know a little bit about you, just who you are, what you're about, my man.
Sure. So I'm a father of 5. My oldest is about 12 years old. Been married for about 13 years. And with a busy life, with a lot of work going on, busy work schedule, things sort of got a little bit out of hand. Wasn't the best father, wasn't the best husband. And thank God I have a wife who's always been there behind me for everything. It came to a point where I started seeing little by little things had to change. It had to be more of a focus. And it was difficult. I didn't necessarily have encouragement to go in that direction. People would say, oh, you got to stop working so hard. And it was always like, you got to stop this, you got to do that. But there was never that sense of, here, let me show you, maybe try a little bit of this, try a little bit of that. It got pretty crazy. So I came across 1 or 2 podcasts, started listening to the mindset podcasts, and just really getting into it. And things started to click little by little, get a little bit more understanding about this part, about being a husband, being a dad, and understanding that it's building small pieces. It's not about getting to the end. Nobody's running to the finish line without running there or walking or jogging, whatever step you're up to. Somebody just put out a tweet the other day about how you're not going to run a marathon after you practice for a short run. That's what life is. And it's hard to realize when you have all these people around you that are just screaming and saying, you got to do this, you got to do that. You get lost.
Yeah, I can definitely resonate with so much of that, man. A note that I wrote down, I go a lot of different ways with that, but I want to start here. You said little by little, when you kind of maybe felt maybe the marriage wasn't as locked in, or maybe the fatherhood wasn't as locked in, or whatever that was. I hit a certain area of my life like that too, where I just realized I'm getting promoted at work and I'm making a little more money, but there's got to be more to life than that, right? Like I'm not there for the things that matter. And even when I am there, I'm not really there. My mind is still elsewhere. So I love what you said. It was little by little. And I think, too often guys, like, they want to change 72 things at a time, and then they fail a week later when motivation falls off, and that's it. So can you kind of say, hey, from that moment that you kind of realized, and how long ago was that? And this is what I'm going to do. Can you kind of walk us through maybe some of those early changes and just little steps that you took?
Sure. So it was definitely over the years. I can't pin a specific year to it. It's got to be going back maybe about 7, 8 years ago. And I wasn't making as big the changes that I needed to be making then. I think what the real changes came around, honestly, was COVID lockdowns. That really hit home. Like, we're at home with the family. We're actually enjoying spending more time with my wife. My work was crazier than ever crazier than ever. So I got that sense of family back.
Mm.
Like where I was enjoying time with my kids again because I had to. I was pushed into a situation. You were there with everyone. There wasn't a choice. So you had two ways of doing it. You could either just push them out or you could actually enjoy it.
Mm.
And thankfully I started going that way of enjoying it. That's really where it hit home. Before that, I think it was just dancing around the ideas. I don't think that I really made those big changes prior to, but I knew that there was something wrong and it couldn't continue like that, where I was pulling crazy long hours. And even when I was home, I would be stressed. I wouldn't be in a good mood. And I
Mm.
was like, this is just not, it's not fair to them. Forget about me for a minute. It's not fair to my wife and kids.
Yeah, I think in society, man, we're kind of taught, and I'd love your thoughts on this, but I mean, I thought I was doing a good job. Like when me and my wife ended up in counseling, I remember one of the first things I said to the counselor was, I got promoted 4 times in the last 2 years. And the counselor's like, what's it have to do with marriage, you know? But I think as a guy, we're often programmed into like, if I bring in a good paycheck, that's enough. And I would just like, I can resonate a lot with what you were saying, because I'd just lay on the couch. Like I'll never forget. And people that know me now think this is crazy, but 5 years ago, I mean, I remember my wife begging me to come outside and take walks with her and my daughter and play and have a picnic. And we're having fun. And I just kept telling her I'm too stressed. I worked 6 days this week. All I want to do is lay around and watch football, leave me alone, you know? And I remember like
Exactly.
getting on my knees and in tears that night. Just something rose up in me that night that like, dude, you're missing what's really important in life. That picnic with your daughter and your wife would have been the best thing that you would have done all month, regardless of what happens at work, you know? And so having that realization, I think it's neat that you said, you know, COVID, as tragic as it was, it gave people an opportunity to pause. And it sounds like for you, recognize what the most important things in life are. Of course, it was tragic, man, and of course, it was a terrible thing. But I do think every terrible thing provides an opportunity for us to kind of pause and look at that. And so, what's kind of been the difference now? You know, looking back a few years at you know who Jonathan was, what kind of dad versus now. What's the differences, man?
Oh, it's a world of a difference. And I feel that the main difference is, like I was saying earlier, just building those little steps and realizing that you need to be consistent about it. And there are points where I fall off the wagon. There's no question about it. But it's about getting back on. It's not, yeah, I failed. Okay. Now what? But what about the rest of my life?
Mm.
And not looking back, forgetting about what's in the past. There's one thing that I put out a lot on my timeline is the past has passed, but the present is a present for us to prepare for the future. And that's, to me, that's really what it's about. They're like people, you know, we'll talk about stuff with friends and family. Like, well, I messed up this. Okay, but it passed already. Like, you have a new chance. Every moment is a new chance for you. So try it. That's
Man,
it.
it's such a simplistic thing, but it's so wise and so powerful. And I do think, especially as men, and I bet some guy is listening to this out there right now, and he's thinking, "You don't know what I've done, Jonathan." You know, like, man, I'm divorced. I've got these kids. I'm just trying to keep my head above water. You don't know, man. And what kind of advice would you give to a man like that who's maybe just stuck, maybe hasn't made a lot of good choices? His life has gone in this other direction. He feels like life's sort of running him and he's not running it. What would your first piece of advice be to a guy like that?
Well, the first thing that I'm going to say off the bat is that's right. I have no idea. I don't know what people are going through, and I'm not going to try to say that I do. But I will say that I have yet to see a person that truly wanted to change, that wanted to see a difference in their life, and that wasn't able to do something. That could be like as simple as, you know what? I'm going to start doing 3 push-ups a day. Now you're going to come back to me and say, Jonathan, what's 3 push-ups a day? It's nothing. It is nothing, but it's that little step. That's all you need, is that little step just to get you going. And then you'll see it's just going to take off from there, because you get excited. You got your 3 push-ups in for a month straight. Now you're going to do 6.
Right.
The next month you're doing 20, and you keep building up. Yeah, it's a long time horizon. don't expect it to change overnight. Someone said, I don't recall who this was, you screwed up your life for the past 20, 30, 40 years. Don't expect it to change overnight. Give it 20, 30, 40 years to get back into place and get back running. But you got to give it a chance. You got to try. It's right there in front of you, and you can only lose from not trying.
Man, it's so powerful. And that, I love that saying of, yeah, I'll have a client come to me and, they're 60 pounds overweight. It took them 20 years to get there. And the first month we lost 6 pounds and I'm happy about it. And they're like,
Right.
yeah, but a whole month and I only lost 6 pounds. I'm like, well, dude, if you do this 10 months in a row, there's your 60 pounds. You didn't, you don't go to the gym 4 times and, have these things happen. But the thing that's getting me fired up, and that I love what you're saying, is start small, but have that long-term vision. I think there's nothing more important than that. And, often in times in life, I always say, like, we get knocked down, we get kicked, maybe you find yourself in a spot where you didn't want to be. The greatest thing about being a human being is this can be your moment right now. You can make that one choice and you can say what you said. Hey, tomorrow, I'm just going to write 5 simple goals. Chug a glass of water when I wake up. Don't snooze. Do 3 push-ups. Take a 10-minute walk. Write 3 things I'm grateful for. All those things are free. Anyone can do them. And guess what? The more I study the brain, your brain is designed that, hey, man, momentum goes both ways, right? But when you start giving your brain wins, it starts looking actively for other ways to win too. And that's when life becomes really good and exciting.
100%. And you touched on so many important points there. But one of the things that I want to bring up, let's say gratitude, for example. If you want to be able to practice gratitude, it's got to be something that you're going to continue practicing. And something that can really help people is you can take a screenshot or take a picture of something that you're grateful for. Put it as the background of your computer screen. Put it as the background of your phone. Set a timer. I literally have a timer on my phone for multiple times a day. See the good.
I love that, man.
Literally.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we get caught up in life and, something hurts, nobody's perfect. I mean, you're talking about the biggest motivators in the world will tell you you're going to have your downtimes. There's no question about it. But what are you putting into place to help you get back up? Once you know that there's something that you could do to balance you, to give you that step up, prepare it. It's going to come. Make sure that you're ready.
Man, I love that. So you actually set a time. I did this when I worked in corporate, man. So I can say this freely now because I'm grateful for my time in corporate. I learned a lot, steady paycheck. I was really grateful for it, but I always kind of knew that's not what I was created for. I was going to move on to something different. And so it was a daily struggle for me, man. I would pause before I went in. I'd always pray, hey, God, help me to impact, be a light here, do the best I can. But I would set a silent alarm at 10:30 every day that would say, pause, be mindful. And then in the early afternoon, same thing, pause, be mindful. And it was that I'm going around like a chicken with my head cut off. I got a 14-person staff. I'm putting out a fire. I'm trying to get my boss is yelling at me here. It was just that reminder to take a breath and just realize, man, it's a gift that we're here. I'll never get this day back, and to look for the good. And so can you kind of talk about your process, how that came about too, for you to set those alarms and what kind of led to that? Because I love that, man.
Sure. So I think it actually started, I was listening to something from Mel Robbins. She has something called the 5-second rule.
Oh yeah, love Mel Robbins.
That actually was one of the things that helped me start getting out of bed on time. That was the only thing that got me out. The 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
That got me moving.
For anybody who doesn't know what that is, Google it. I'll put a link below in the description, but Mel Robbins just has this technique. It helped me when I was first changing that habit of not snoozing too. You just say in your head, count back 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and explode up and attack your day. It's a very powerful strategy. So yeah, I love that, man.
Yes. She had, total side note, but she happens to have a new one out about giving yourself a high five in the mirror.
Ooh, I like that.
I don't know if you've checked it out.
I have not. I need to check that out.
Amazing. Amazing. Definitely recommended. So for me, where did I get that from? So a mentor that I have for many years was helping me get through a tough time. And he said, all you have to do is just be grateful. A few times a day, just stop. I'm grateful for my wife, grateful for my kids, that I have a house, that I have a community, whatever each person has, because everybody has something different that they can be grateful for. And it's not always easy to find it. Even if someone else looks at you like, what do you mean you're not grateful? You have all this stuff. Yeah, but we don't see past our nose. So take that little bit of time and then find something grateful. Find something to be grateful for. And I don't remember who posted it. Somebody posted about having this as your background or popping it up a little while ago. I was like, that's a really cool idea. I'm going to try it. So it's going on probably about a month and a half, 2 months. And it's a game changer because even if you don't get to it then, we're checking our phones way too often. So you're going to get to it sooner or later.
Why not program it in your subconscious, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's a couple great strategies and tips there, man. And this is really neat. And I can expand upon gratitude a lot because I just hit day number 1703 today of in a row. First thing upon waking is I have a notebook by my desk or sometimes notes in my phone. And I just write down 3 things I'm grateful for. Usually now it's from the past day. And most of the time it's just things I did with my kids, but there's now actively my brain looks for these things. So it's like I'll have times where I'm stuck in traffic and that first impulse thought is like, I'm stuck in traffic. And my brain will instantly shift to, dude, I'm grateful I have a car. I'm grateful I can go from, 30 miles to just pick up the food that me and my family want. I'm grateful that I can put on an awesome podcast and learn while I'm stuck in. I'm grateful, all these things. It really is a game changer, man. I really, wisest man I've ever talked to is my first mentor and preacher, Eddie Lowen. And he said, you can't be grateful and grumpy at the same time. And I'm like, yeah, it's a good point. It's a very good point. So it sounds like you have, obviously kind of maybe a high stress job and you've got 5 young children under 12. So as much as you love being a dad, that they pull you apart and kind of stress, there are certain stresses with fatherhood, right? So you kind of come back to center, it sounds like a few times a day and just remind yourself of the blessings. And you think that's a pretty big cheat code for life, it sounds like.
Huge. Total game changer. I mean, it's not going to solve all your problems, but it's going to get you so much further because your entire perspective changes. Like you walk into a situation where, the house is flying. You just walk in the house and you trip on something. So you have 2 ways to react. You could either start yelling and screaming, which is probably what I'm sure I used to do that. Or now it's like, okay, I tripped on it, but you know what? I have kids. My kids are playing. They're having a good time. So I tripped. Okay, I'll get over it. But see the good. It helps you sort of balance a little bit. And I'm probably making it sound a lot easier than it is. It's not easy. It's practice. And that's where I feel like most people are not realizing you got to put in the daily reps. And it's not hard at all. Such a simple practice that's why I keep pushing these things out, because I want people to see how easy it is to make those steps. You're not going to get to that point day one where it's like, oh, I walk in the house and everything is beautiful. No, it's not going to happen like that. But over time, you're going to get there. You will get there. There's no question about it.
That's right, man. And, all the things you're talking about are readily available and free for everybody. And, I love what you said. And I think this is the problem right now with a lot of people in society is, hey, just give me a quick fix for that. Hey, man, I'll buy that guy's program for $200 because he guarantees in 10 days I can lose 20 pounds. And say, guess what, dude? You're gonna put on 30 then the next, because that's not sustainable, right? Like, but I love the fact what you say is you can do a few of these daily habits every day. And I always say the same way, going to the gym, in month 1, you might see a little result, but not much, right? But month 2, 3, 4, 10 months, time's going to go on anyway. And so, when you're constantly doing that, you'll see your body change. You'll see your mind change. You'll see your spirit change. Same thing with gratitude. Same thing with a lot of these daily little habits. And, you're the man that's the evolved dad. Well, a little bit better every day. Just keep iterating, keep evolving, keep going. What are some of those other daily habits that you've either kind of mastered now or you're kind of adding in as you go right now, man?
So to me, the 3 pillars are health, wealth, and knowledge.
Mm.
So health, as of right now, I try to work out a few times a day. I'm not like a major buff guy, but I'm getting there one step at a time, and I'm upping my game a little bit here and there as I go. So I make sure to get in some sort of exercise. I have a minimum every day of 10 push-ups.
Nice.
It's usually like, even on the hardest days, I'll push to one more. Great book by Ed Milet. Well, not even his book, his podcast. Ed Milet has a whole thing about one more. Whatever you're doing, just do one more.
I like that.
If you want to hold back and not do something that you shouldn't be doing, just do one day. That's it. Just one little step at a time.
Like that.
So that's one thing is my workout. The knowledge aspect is reading. I set a minimum of 10 minutes a day for reading, depending on what the book is. There are points where I stick to just one book, and there are points where I switch up my books, depending on the book that I'm reading. If I feel that, maybe I need to switch it up a little bit, sometimes I'll go through a few different books. That's the second one. I've recently, as of it's probably a few months now, it's quite a few months, I've implemented a nightly walk with my wife so that we can get out. Game changer.
Even when it's freezing cold there, man, you guys still
Even
get
when
out?
it's freezing cold, I tell my wife we're going to go for a walk. You ready?
I love that.
She's like, if you're going, I'm going. Great.
That's leadership right there, brother. I love that, man.
So there's nothing like it, because who cares if it's hot, if it's cold? It's what you're trying to get to. It's not going to always be easy. So you got to push through those times when it gets hot and it's going to be 80, 90 degrees. And I'm not going to be interested in going outside. We're going to go anyways, because the point of the walk is not whether it's hot or whether it's cold. We just got to push past that.
Mm.
And that's, we have prayer daily, whatever else we could add in.
I love that so much. And again, it's the compounding effect, right? And I think you can see this in money. They say if you put the same amount, let's say you invest $1,000 a month from the time you're 20 to 30, every month you put it in from 20 to 30, and you never put another penny in again. And then by the time you're 62, it will be worth more than if you start at 30, go all the way from 30 to 62. So 22 extra years of investing $1,000. It will be worth more, the person who started at 20, because of that compounding effect, man. And I think that's what people fail to realize. I think that's why I resonate so much with you, Jonathan, because, everybody asks me like, hey, Ty, you used to be here 5 years ago, and now I see you over here. You're full of joy. You're a happy guy. You're all these bodies changed, a lot of these things, right? And I go, what's the secret? What's the thing? It's not a thing, man. It's a daily choice, right? It's a getting up and doing the gratitude every day, which is free and takes 3 minutes. It's daily prayer, man. It's changing, a lot of the heavy metal and rap music I used to listen to praise music and putting that stuff in my mind, I talk to a lot about just these little habits, man, that you talk about, where we got rid of like Netflix, and instead of watching a few hours of Netflix a week, I stream 2 extra sermons a week, at least, a lot of times 3 or 4, right? So I'm putting those inputs in my mind. It's just the little tiny things, man. And, I always tell people, if you want to change your life, it's not this big once in a life. Oh, it's this big transformational. I'm going to go to a Tony Robbins concert and and everything's just going to be easy after that. Right. It's not like that. Like my wife was really helpful with me. I used to be addicted to soda, man. And like these big coffees where I'd put so much sugar in them. They had 800, 900 calories, man. I'd put caramel and sugar in them. And I remember telling her when I was getting in this health and self-improvement, I don't think I can stop. I like them too much. And she said something along the lines of this: instead of putting, 2 full scoops of sugar in there and a big giant squirt of caramel, just do 90% of the caramel and 10% less of the sugar for 1 week, and then start to reduce it a little more and a little more and a little more. And 4 months later, I only drink black coffee. That's how it was. And it's like, I've taken that approach with so many things in life, and it sounds like you have too. And there's no downside, because even if you fail, you just learn what didn't work and you start over and you keep going, right? And so what do you say to those guys who are sitting out there saying, hey, this just sounds too good to be true? How do I get that long-term vision, I suppose, right? Like, because I've maybe started and stopped a bunch of times, been fired up to go to the gym for the new year, but And now we're into February. We're starting to hit into March. I don't know, man. I haven't seen the results. Like, what do you tell a guy like that?
So there's a few important points you touched on. First of all, I want to bring up something that I recently heard from Jay Shetty, which I think this can help everybody. He has a concept where he says you go like this, you put your hand on your heart and you say, I'm exactly where I need to be.
Ooh. All right, we're all going to practice that right now, man. Let's put our hands on our heart. I'm exactly where I need to be. I like
It's
that.
powerful.
It's peaceful and powerful right there. I love
It's powerful.
that.
So that, first of all, just acknowledging this is where you need to be now. And everything here is a step forward. You're not going back. Time has passed. No time travel. It's going forward. That's first of all. The second thing, Jim Rohn talks about how you can't expect to put garbage in your mind and expect anything different to come out. So whatever we're taking as our input, that's what's going to come out. So you got to make sure you take care of your mind and be careful what you're bringing in. Recognize what you're bringing in, like you were saying about the music, and whether it's whatever you're reading or who you're talking to, that's all going in. But you got to make sure that you keep that clean based on what you want. As far as a long-term goal, you got to sit down with yourself. You got to journal. You got to just write out, what are your feelings? Where do you want to see yourself? Maybe you look up to somebody. You want to end up how you perceive their life. Don't ever think that anybody's life is so perfect that you want to be them. You never want to be another person. You want to be you. Everyone has their trials and their tribulations. We're all human. That's what it comes down to. So you got to take your story and everything that you've been blessed to have experienced until now and build a kingdom out of it. That's really what
I
it
love
is.
that. I love that journal piece, man, because I think one of the first things I always ask new clients to do is to write themselves a letter a year from now and tell them why are you so proud of yourself to get to where you are? Why are you so happy when you look in the mirror and see that body looking back? Why are you so proud of yourself for all these things? And so it forces you to start to see things from a year down the road, and then, okay, let's reverse engineer and work back, right? How do I do that? What's the monthly habit look like? What's the weekly? What's the daily? What kind of work do I need to put in, right? And I really love that, man. I think that's a powerful concept to have that longer term vision. And then, like you said, man, the inputs are everything. I mean, this is crazy to me, but I used to be so anxious, man. And, anxiety will creep up time to time now for me, but I bet I've reduced it by 98%. And when I look at what I used to do, my alarm would go off 5 times in the morning. I'd keep snoozing. And then instantly I'd read CNN, I'd read Fox News, I'd get the news of the day, all the problems, right straight shot to my brain, And then I go to a corporate office and I complain with my coworkers about, it's only Tuesday, this day is going to suck. We have this client, I hate this client, it's miserable. And what do you think is going to happen, right? Like, of course you're going to be putting out negativity when only negativity comes in. And so it's, for me, giving up the news, man. And people say, well, you're not informed. Well, I'm not misinformed, right? Like no story has been big enough in the last 3.5 years since I quit news that I still don't know about it. If it's big enough, it'll find you, but your brain is not designed to take in all the problems of the world every day. You're not, you're just not, you need to focus on your vision, your mission, get up. And how you're really going to change the world is not by consuming a bunch of news. It's by pouring into your family, man. Exactly what you're doing every day. Let's take family walks, man. Let's play. Let's be present. Let's be here. Let's create memories, right? That stuff's going to matter a lot more than, if we get nuked by Russia, if 1 minute before I do, good, God bless you, but we're all going to this, it's over for everybody anyway. So why would I sit there and stew about it and read about it every single day? It just doesn't make sense.
100%. And I gave up news a while back, and I got the same comments. How you know what's going on and what's going on with this? I still find out about certain tragedies late, but what I tell people is, you guys are all still listening to the news, so you'll let me know before anything truly tragic happens. So what's there to like? That's more just like to shut down the conversation. But in reality, if it's so important that it's going to affect me to such, you know, to such an extent, I'll find out about it. It's
Yeah.
going to come to me if it's so important.
Yep. I totally agree, man. Even in fact, this week, I guess a pipeline burst from California to Nevada, and we were supposed to maybe not have gas for a week at our pumps. I mean, guess what, man? I got a pop up on Twitter that said there's this maybe a state of emergency, right? Like you'll find out
Right.
about this stuff. I don't need to be seeking it out every day, right? So went and got gas at like 11 p.m. one night, right? Just to make sure. So yeah, I think if it is big enough, it'll find you. Well, you're the evolved dad, right? And let me ask you, Jonathan, where do you see kind of the vision of that going? Because I love you sharing on social. Every person that follows you gets a lot of good stuff coming into your brain. I'm obviously going to link your profile below and everything you do below, man. But what's kind of your overall message? What do you hope to do with that? What's kind of your goals for that, man?
So the evolved dad, I'd like to turn into a more mainstream, I guess, brand you could call it. I want every dad out there to become an evolved dad. I don't mean you have to like wear any merch or any sort of stuff like that. You don't have to chant anything. I want each dad out there to feel that they can make that change and start making those changes because they're going to enjoy it. And I know what it's like to have started making those changes and to be on that journey. I just want everyone to go that same route. There's no reason that so many more people can't be happy, that their families can't be happy. It saves people from so much pain. Even if we don't even want to go that direction, just the joy that you're going to get from that, from being more present with your family and your wife, your kids, just enjoying and understanding what really counts in life, what's so important for you. That's really what the whole message is. And I actually was blessed to get somebody a week or two ago, maybe less. I try to message the people that are following me, just, see, is there anything that I can help out with? How's it going? And somebody wrote back to me, this was awesome. This made the account all worth it. Every last bit, whatever is going to ever happen with it. He wrote back, I followed you because I'm also an evolved dad. And I'm looking and working to make my wife and family, give them a better future. I totally wrote that. I'm working to give my wife and children a better future. That's it. That's literally what my count is about. It's all about you. There's nothing in it about me. I'm here just to share what's worked for me so that you can take those steps yourself. That's literally all that it's about.
Man, I think that's beautiful. And I think, every kind of person I talk to who's kind of gone through it, like maybe you have a little bit and like I have a little bit, I think when you get on the other side and your mind kind of breaks free and you see, life is just good, man. And it can get better and better and better. And we can all go together. All you want to do is help people, man. That's literally all I want to do is help people, man. I remember when I started tweeting, I thought, maybe after a few years, it'd be dope to have like 1,000 people that followed me. And if I could impact one or two of those people, how neat would that be? God had some different plans for it. But, I just remember thinking I've kind of never have it all figured out, man, but I've got some things that work. And I just want to help other people. Maybe they work for them too, and I just want everybody to live this better life. And when I hear you saying it, man, the first thought I have is it's almost like not mainstream anymore. And it's almost like anti what you're saying. Like, you hear a lot of these guys, marriage is a trap. It's a scam. Like once you have kids, man, you stop this and that, you hear a lot of this negativity. And I love guys like you who bring it back and say, dude, this is the best part of life. I'm yet to hear a person on their deathbed be like, I wish I had grinded that extra weekend. So I'm dying with an extra $2,000, but I think you hear a lot of regrets from, man, I wish I had poured more into my family, the relationships. That's what really matters. And so kind of just getting guys to think about that a little bit different, man, I think is so powerful. And I love what you're promoting, man. And I'm really happy to fight the good fight with you, brother.
Thank you. And just one other thing that I think can help everyone. There's a podcast. I'm not here as promoting it or anything. It happens to be something that I listen to every day. The Daily Motivation by Lewis Howes.
I love Lewis Howes, dude. He has a daily one. I didn't know that. I
Is
love this guy,
it's
man.
clips. It's
Okay,
clips from his full episodes,
nice.
and it just it gives you little bits of perspective. And I think that this really comes to the whole knowledge and learning aspect. Some people look at it like there's a statistic about CEOs that read 50 something books a year or something. Okay. But then you have like Alex Hormozy saying, you don't have to read 50 books a year. You just have to read one book 50 times. I'm sort of in between. My thing is, I'm going to keep going through books because I want to take in more knowledge. I'm going to take those cheesy one-liners and I'm going to keep that in my head because my mind is that garden that I'm cultivating. And I want to make sure that that's what's circling around in my head. I'm going to think about it more because that's what's in my head. So you pull all these little ideas together and you're not necessarily going to get everything from that book. You may only pull one thing out of a book that's 350 pages, but who cares? It was all worth it for that one little piece of information.
You got that thing forever now for the rest of your life, right? It's
Exactly.
part of you. Yeah, it's such a gift, I think, to be able to read and consume content in the era we're in, man. That's what I always say, that I can't fathom going back to like Netflix or Hulu or something like this now when I can stream the best preachers ever, man. I watch Billy Graham sermons, man. I mean, you can go back and watch these great Craig Groeschel, every week. Eddie Lowen, all these preachers, man. You can go stream their stuff. Lewis Howes putting out great content. Mel Robbins. I mean, you've named a few of them already. You could just right now go into YouTube and search motivational content, on any topic you want. Eric Thomas, all these guys will come up and you can start to put these things in your mind every day. And then what comes in is what's eventually going to come out, right? And I love that it seems like you're so intentional about what comes into your mind too, man. And just making sure it's all positive stuff. Do you talk to your kids a lot about that already too?
Yeah, they kind of joke about it because I have a few catchphrases that I say, like expect the unexpected. And they just joke about it. Like there are certain times we go on walks and they're like, hey, expect the unexpected. Like little things like that. And then every once in a while I'll be like, okay, what about this one? It is what it is, but and they're like, it will become what you make of it.
Ah.
So yeah, I play around with the phrases because again, the idea is just to get those little things into their heads. I'd rather that that's living in their heads. They're going to hear all sorts of stuff. If I could ingrain this in their brains now, you never know when it's going to come up and it's going to help them at some point.
That's so true. And I think as dads, that's so vital. Man, I had a talk, I remember, with my dad when I was maybe like 12 years old. We were shooting hoops in the backyard. And I don't know what brought it up. Something about, maybe I said one of my friends mentioned drugs or something like that. And my dad kind of got real serious. And me and my dad always had just like a jokey around, like, shooting hoops, throwing a ball. We were always playing sports. But I remember my dad saying, like, getting kind of a serious tone and saying, hey, man, I'm going to tell you about Lenny Bias. And this was like a #1 overall draft pick in the NBA. He'd never done drugs. And when he signed his $1 million contract that night, he did cocaine one time and it killed him. And then my dad told me he had a friend that had a similar experience with drugs, where he was a great guy, did it once, ruined his whole life. And so my dad just had this very impactful talk at 12. And maybe, I remember kind of thinking, yeah, drugs seem scary, but dude, I can remember vividly being 22 and 23 years old, and I'd kind of hit it pretty big in poker at that time. And so I was at some pretty crazy parties with some pretty crazy people with Tony Montoya style mountains of cocaine on the table and 100 other people at the party doing it. And my dad's voice was right in my head. You do this one time, man, you can die. It can ruin your whole life. And I was one of the only people, I think the only person in my friend circle, to never do those things. And I think back to just that one present moment that my dad had with me that changed my whole life right there. Because who knows where I go, man, if I start doing that stuff, right? And so, the role of fathers is so critical. And for you to have those magic moments with your kids every day and be seeking those out, that's how you change the world, man. There's a bigger way you can convince me that you're going to change the world than that.
100%. And for all the dads out there, it's never too late. It really isn't. Don't look for perfection. Just look for improvement. See what you can do. How can you improve yourself? It all starts with you. If you start changing, that's how you change the world. You can't expect to go over to tell other people. You got to lead by example.
Amen, man. Perfection's the enemy of progress. I had that as a sticky note on my computer because I'd start these things and I'd be, and then I just like, all right, man, you just got to keep going. You just got to keep going. That's the key,
Yeah.
man. And one other thing I love that I want to touch upon too, that you kind of said is some people tell you got to read a book a week. If you're going to be successful, you better do a book a week. Some other people tell you this or that. You have to try what works for you. And I always tell people that too. And I love that that's your message, that just because some guru tells me I got to start every day meditating 60 minutes on a outside, dude, I ain't got that kind of time. I'm a busy working dad. Sometimes I got 3 minutes in the morning to get into my prayer life, and then I got to go, but you have to find little systems and little daily routines that you enjoy and that work for you and that compound and lead you where you want to go. And it sounds like you found that with the podcast, with the 5 4 3 2 1, with the family walks, with the walks with the wife, with a lot of these things that you're doing are just continuing to make you better every single day, evolving into a better version constantly. And guess what? I'm going to say this loud. Anybody can do it. It's free. Any guy out there, any girl out there, you can do these things too. You just got to make up your mind that I'm going to start today.
100%. That's really what it's all about.
Yeah.
Just try to be positive, practice gratitude, and there's no like practice. Do it however you want. There's no specific way to do it. Find, like you're saying, find what works best for you. That's what it comes down to. Not what your dad says, not what your mom says, not what your friend says, not what anybody. It doesn't make a difference. It's got to be you, because you're improving yourself. And whatever you can put into your daily schedule, as opposed to interrupting your daily schedule, you will see so much more success like you've never seen in your life. And you're going to change everything.
Amen, brother. I think that should give everybody out there hope, man. And I'd say, another thing is just take it slow, right? Like exactly what Jonathan said before. Maybe you haven't exercised in 25 years. Dude, start with a 10-minute walk every day. You can do a 10-minute walk. Maybe it's in the morning, maybe it's at lunch break, maybe it's the evening, 10 minutes a day. Just start with that walk, man. Maybe
Exactly.
you haven't eaten healthy. You don't really know what you're doing. Just start by chugging a couple glasses of water in the morning. Maybe swapping around those morning donuts for just, something a little bit healthier, right? Just make a little change here and there. Keep evolving. You will be shocked where you are 6 months from now, a year from now. You'll be a totally different person a year from now. And it's all those daily little changes. Man, I love that, bro. What are you reading right now, Jonathan? What's a couple good things that you've read here in the past or you're reading right now you can share with us?
So I just recently finished Amy Morin's 13 things that mentally strong people don't do. I believe that is. I just got her book on parenting. She has 13 of something about what parents should or should not do. She has one for kids that I just bought for my kids as well. Her stuff is just fantastic. What else? There's some finance books that I've gone through. I think anyone that wants to really touch up on their finances needs to start with understanding money. I'm no finance guru at all, I can tell you that. But The Millionaire Next Door changes perspectives.
That book changed my whole way I viewed money, man. The whole way I used to think before I read that book that everybody who was rich was either born rich or they're like a celebrity. And then I realized it's like teachers. The number one millionaire are people making like $58,000 a year that just, guess what? They live on 38. They bank 20K a year. They let it compound. And guess what? It's like you can't not be wealthy if you just live below your means and invest wisely. It's pretty crazy.
There's another book that I'm reading now, The Richest Man in Babylon, which is sort of a parody on that, I guess, to an extent. And that's more of a story-based version, what I would say, of The Millionaire Next Door. Nice. But it gives different perspectives. What else was there? So many good books.
Whenever people ask me that, I always struggle, man, because I'm always like, I don't know. I got like 15 over the last couple of years. Have you read the David Goggins Can't Hurt Me?
Oh, that was Next level.
Yeah, it's a game changer. And then he just put out a new one that I have not read yet, but I need to get. It's a couple of my buddies have been telling me that they can't sleep. They're like, don't read it before bed because you won't go to sleep. It just fires you up too much.
His stuff is amazing. There's that book will literally change your life.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, talk about getting rid of excuses, man.
That was next level. Yeah. I got hyped up just from reading that book. That was anybody that wants to get some excitement as far as chasing down your goals, just read Can't Hurt Me.
Yeah. Yeah. One cool thing I think he makes a point in that book too, it's kind of what you alluded to earlier, is when you're winning a little bit and your brain starts to win, and David Goggins calls it, you put that cookie in the cookie jar for later, right? So you have those memories, and at this point, Jonathan, I bet you wake up and you still don't feel like maybe doing those right things all the time, right? Like I know I don't. Like my alarm will go off some mornings. It was probably 3 times this week, man, where my alarm goes off in the 5 a.m.s, and like my first thought is like, yeah, I'm in pretty good shape. I can skip the gym. Nobody gonna notice. It'll be fine, right? Like it'll be okay, man. It's cold out there. Like, but I think once you just build those good habits of going, then you can kind of start to tell your mind, remember how good you feel. You made a promise to yourself. You'll feel better after. And then you just kind of those positive habits have that momentum too, where it just carries you through. Whether you feel motivated or not, you just do it.
100%. And that's really what it's all about. It's about creating that bigger vision that fuels your motivation. If you're going to try to live based on motivation, you're going to crash. It's never going to work. You got to have that big picture. But the most important thing is just starting. That's really what it comes out to. Don't try to overplan. Like I had a whole rant on New Year's resolutions. To me, it's like, don't wait for New Year's. If you have an idea now, even if it's 2 days before New Year's, start now. If it's something that's so important, now's the time to start. Not tomorrow, not the next day, not New Year's. If it happens to be that New Year's is the day that it pops into your head, go for it. But don't let that be your motivation, because that's going to just let you join everyone else that's quitting, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later, whatever it may be. You got to have a real why, something important to you that's going to keep you going.
Amen, man. That's true. I think I set a New Year's resolution a decade in a row to read the entire Bible in a year, and I never made it past Genesis 30. Ever. Not 1 year, man. And you know what I do now for the last 3 years? Maybe 2.5 years? I read 1 chapter of the Bible every single night before I go to bed. Right now, my Bible is up on my pillow, so it's very easy. Right when I get into bed, read at least 1 chapter. A lot of nights I go longer, but it's a 3 to 4 minute habit a night. And it's very attainable. It's very easy. And now I get that 365 days a year. I know I'm reading at least 365 chapters of the Bible every year. Instead of this big goal that looks overwhelming, right? Break it down 1 chapter a day. It takes me 3-4 minutes, man. No big deal, right?
That's the way to do it.
Yeah. I love your message, man. I love everything about you. Again, guys, I'm going to link. It's at The Evolved Dad. We'll link that below. Please give this man, Jonathan, a follow on Twitter. He's a fantastic follow. Just puts out so much great. I always say the best people to follow on Twitter are the people that ain't putting a sales tweet every other tweet, right? They just want to help you. They just want to encourage you. They just want to inspire you. And this man, Jonathan, is right there with that, man. He's locked into that, just wants to help make you a better version of you. And ultimately, that's how we change the world, guys. It's by starting within. So I want to give you one last word, man, to reach out to anybody else out there listening, man. What's a word of encouragement or advice you'd give the people, man?
One last thing, actually, which is one of the things that hooked me on following you initially in your video, is the power of words. In the beginning of your video, you said you got to spend the night at the hospital with your son. I noticed that. I picked up on that. It's a game changer. It's a total game changer. Now, I'm not going to say it's easy. You're not going to walk around changing your words all the time. But when you can, or if you could think it, that will change how you approach everything in life. I get to go eat supper with my family. I get to go on a walk with them. I get to go get my kids to bed. Now I have to.
Yep.
So yeah, sometimes I say, oh, I got to go to work. Then afterwards to myself, I may say, I get to go to work. I have a job.
Get to provide for your family and get to get a paycheck, which provides an awesome lifestyle, which allows you to do all the things you love. It's a blessing, right?
100%. 100%.
Man.
So just keeping that little tip in your mind, even if you can't say it out. I know some people are very into, you got to say it, you got to mean it. Just do your thing. Do what you can do to make yourself a better you for tomorrow.
I love that, man. That get to versus have to is such a powerful transition, man. And I love that. I think that's a great thing to end on. Well, guys, I'm grateful that you got to listen to this podcast today. I'm grateful that you will get to do something the rest of the day that will make your life better and those around you. And I always end every podcast by saying, just be really kind to yourself, be really kind to others. Let's go change the world one great interaction at a time. And as my man here, Jonathan, alluded to, that starts within. That starts within each one of us. So let's go be the best versions of ourselves. Go bless up today, baby. Thank you so much for tuning into episode number 70, Tyrompers No Limit Podcast. Thanks, guys, and go have a blessed day.